Well, thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Kent Hovind. I taught high school science for 15 years. And now, since 1989, I've been traveling around doing seminars on creation, evolution, and dinosaurs. Tonight we're going to cover, our videotape number 3 is all about dinosaurs. Where do they fit into the Bible? This fellow from National Geographic says, no human being has ever seen a live dinosaur. Well, now hold on a minute. Does he know that, or does he think that? In order to know that, wouldn't he have to know everybody that ever lived? Did he talk to you before he said that? No, he didn't talk to me. I bet he didn't talk to the folks that lived 500 years ago either, did he? You can't just make that and call it a scientific statement. No human being has ever seen a dinosaur. That's his opinion, but that's certainly not a scientific statement. See, the Bible says in Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And it says in Exodus chapter 20, in 6 days, the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is. Which means Adam must have seen dinosaurs. If he made everything in 6 days, I believe that means he made everything in 6 days, just like he said he did. And in seminar part 2, we talked about the firmament that was above the atmosphere. In Genesis 1:6, it says, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. When God first made the earth, there was a canopy of water above the firmament, above the atmosphere. That could have been a canopy of ice, 8 or 10 or 20 inches thick, I don't know. I don't think all the rain for the flood came from the canopy. I mean, most of the water for the flood came from inside the earth. The fountains of the deep broke open. That's where most of the flood water came from. It only rained 40 days, but the water kept coming up for 150 days. So it didn't all come from, from the rain. But this canopy of water overhead is probably what explains why they lived so long before the flood, over 900 years, and why we don't live to be 900 years old today. That canopy is one of several factors that probably influenced their great longevity. So from the creation up until the flood, things were very different. The people lived to be more than 900 years old. You could learn a lot in 900 years. Adam spoke every language in the world. Well, there was only one, but he spoke it. Okay. Now, during this time, something very strange would happen to the reptiles, because reptiles never stop growing. People stop growing. When you're 16 or 18 years old, you're going to quit growing, at least vertically. Some go horizontally afterwards, but that's okay. Reptiles never stop growing. So before the flood came, when the reptiles lived to be 900 years old, they would get to be really big. Dinosaurs were just big lizards that lived with Adam and Eve before the flood came. They did not live millions of years ago. And then Noah took them on the ark. People say, dinosaurs on the ark, they're kind of big, aren't they? Well, the big ones were big, but the little ones were little. And Noah was 600 years old when he built that boat. I bet he was smart enough to figure out, you don't have to bring the biggest ones you can find. Bring 2 babies. Just be sure to get a pink one and a blue one. That'll be important later. There are all sorts of reasons for bringing babies. They're smaller, obviously. Did you know the biggest dinosaur egg ever found is smaller than a football? So you can get an awfully big dinosaur from a pretty small egg, okay? Secondly, they weigh less, they eat less, they sleep a lot more, they're tougher. Did you know kids fall down and bounce and get up and keep running? Adults fall down and break or lay there for a while. So it makes common sense to bring babies, since they would be more durable for a journey on the ark in case it gets rough once in a while. Now, some of the scoffers have said, man, if it was stormy seas for a whole year, it'd kill everybody on the ark. The Bible doesn't say it was stormy seas for a whole year. Noah was in the ark for a year. He hit bottom in the 7th month. He didn't get out for 6 more months. We cover that on video number 6, why he didn't get out. But there can be storms going on in the world right now. And it doesn't affect us right here, does it? Could be a storm over in India. We don't feel the weather pattern changes. So I think Noah was in the ark, and God watched over that whole situation. But after the flood, the dinosaurs, the babies, would live longer to produce more offspring, and that's why he brought them. Why on earth would you bring big elephants or big giraffes? Just bring 2 babies. And he only had to bring 2 of every sort, not 2 of every species. So that's where people get all confused about this. God told Noah to bring them after their kind, after their kind, after their kind, 2 of every sort. 7 of some, of course. Just 2 generic animals of each kind, and only those in whose nostrils was the breath of life, and only those on dry land. Noah didn't have to bring any fish. They had plenty of water outside. And he didn't have to bring any bugs, by the way, because bugs don't have nostrils. They breathe through their skin, through spiracles. he brought just 2 of the generic dog kind, like our dog Nicky. Nicky was a Canardly, because you can already tell what kind he was. Okay? That's the generic dog there, Nicky. Probably the horse and the zebra had a common ancestor. I wouldn't argue about that, but it looked like a horse. So there's been a lot of variations within the kind since the flood, but that's not evolution. It's just a variation of the same kind of animal. Skeptics will say, how did he fit those millions of animals onto the ark? Well, in the first place, he only brought land animals. Okay, that greatly limits the number. He could eliminate the bugs. That really, really limits the number. Only bring babies. That's common sense. Bring 2 of each kind, not every single variety. Did you know there's only about 8,000 basic kinds of animals in the world? Adam could name 8,000 kinds of animals in a couple hours. People say, how did one man name all those animals in one day? Well, they start with the assumption that they have to have millions of names. That's a false assumption. They start with the assumption that Adam is as dumb as the average person today. Adam came pre-programmed straight from the hand of God. I mean, he could walk, talk, and get married first day. Right? Okay. He was pre-programmed, fully loaded computer. Okay. And how big was the ark anyway? You know, it beats what the evolutionists believe. They believe 20 billion years ago there was a big bang where nothing exploded and produced everything. And then 4.6 billion years ago the earth cooled down and it rained on the rocks for millions of years. Yes, boys and girls, it took a long time for the earth to cool down. But the earth was hot and there were large pools of bubbling lava. This is what the textbooks teach the kids today in school, right? Some of you face this stuff today, right? And oceans formed as it rained on the rocks for millions of years. Yes, boys and girls, millions of years of torrential rains created the oceans. And swirling in the waters of the oceans is a bubbling broth of complex chemicals. Progress from a complex chemical soup to a living organism is very slow. Oh, I guess it is. It's totally stopped. That's how slow it is. This textbook says the first self-replicating systems must have emerged in this organic soup. Was your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa soup? I don't think so, no. So according to the Big Bang Theory, 20 billion years ago, nothing exploded and produced everything. And 4.6 billion years ago, the earth cooled down, it rained on the rocks for millions of years, turned them into soup, and the soup came alive 3 billion years ago. One skeptic said to me one time, he said, Hovind, did you realize there are hundreds of kinds of dogs in the world? I said, yes, sir, you're right about that. He said, do you think all those dogs came from just 2 dogs on Noah's Ark? I said, sir, would you look at what you believe? You believe all the dogs in the world came from a rock. That would take an awful lot of faith, I would say. Here's the evolutionist life verse, saying to a stock, thou art my father, and to a stone thou hast brought me forth. I found my daddy's life verse in the Bible. Matthew 17:15. Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and sore vexed. But anyway, the Bible says the earth was corrupt before God and filled with violence. Everything was corrupt. People were wicked. And the Lord said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark. And Noah said to the boys, hey boys, go for wood. We got to build a boat, quick. And so they went and got the wood, and he built this monster boat. After the flood was over, Noah's son Shem had a son and named him Arphaxad. Why would anybody name a kid Arphaxad? Can't you see that kid in kindergarten? What's your name, son? Arphaxad. Do you know how to spell it? No. Nobody does. But don't you think little Arphaxad was getting big enough one day? He's sitting on Grandpa Noah's lap, and he's looking around like kids do, and he says, hey, Grandpa, I have a question. How come we're the only people in the whole world? Where is everybody? Eventually, that thought's going to cross his mind, don't you think? I mean, after all, there weren't many people in those days. They had the whole world to themselves. And Grandpa Noah's going to tell the story to grandson Arphaxad about the flood. Actually, Noah's son Shem lived a long time after the flood. He lived long enough to tell the story firsthand to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God made sure there was one of his witnesses there. I was there kind of fella. You don't believe in the flood? Hey, let's go talk to Shem. He's still alive. And today, there are 270 surviving flood legends. The Hawaiian have a legend that says, long after the death of Kunihana, the first man, the world became a wicked, terrible place to live. There was one good man left. His name was Nu'u. He made a great canoe with a house on it and filled it with animals. The waters came up over all the earth and killed all the people. Only Nu'u and his family were saved. Interesting story. The Chinese have a legend called the Hai King Classic, probably one of the oldest stories in the world. The Hai King Classic says Fu Hai is